Following on from the success of Superman movie came out this previous summer, and also Peacemaker Season 2. They both may not have done crazy numbers in terms on streaming or in terms of breaking even, but what they did do is they've restored the faith, or at least somewhat are starting to restore credibility. Although it is a very important thing for a studio to make money and have good reviews, James Gunn and Pete Safran were essentially brought on to rebuild the DC trust. The brand. They are rebuilding the brand. Whether you like the way they're going or not, DC has started to get some kind of momentum. Yo, Warstu, you are switching up. You said the Superman movie was awful. No, I didn't. Go on my Instagram and actually look what I actually said. The Superman movie was decent. Peacemaker Season 2 overall was decent. It wasn't great, but we have this main narrative, you know, with Salvation. It's going somewhere. We know Man of Tomorrow is going to include Superman. It's going to include Brainiac, potentially. It's going to include Lex Luthor. It's going to include Supergirl for sure. So they are somewhat on a bit of a roll. It's all about rebranding and building the trust back, which it somewhat did work. Not great financially, but at least from a review point of view, general reception was it's good. So now we look at what is coming next. Millie Alcock, the House of Dragons star, is going to reprise her role as Kara Zor-El in the Supergirl movie. Why I say reprise her role? Because they introduced her in the Superman movie, so it's technically reprising. So we've got some plot information, we've got some test screen information, we've got some reshoot information, and reshoots is standard. Don't just think it's a bad thing. I actually think Supergirl will be the best DCU property and project released by DC Studios ever. So, yo, what is good, YouTube? What's you here? If you are new around here, make sure to subscribe to never miss any of the Marvel, DC, Kaiju, mods, the various pop culture-based content I try to deliver on a daily basis. Subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on, and let me know how freaking excited are you for this movie. Not only this, we're also getting Robin Pattinson's The Batman dude. And although Clayface is a kind of Batman D-list villain, the boy Warstu is a sucker for a horror movie. So, check us out on Instagram at Warstu to see the beautiful face behind my voice. Check us out on Twitter and also check us out on TikTok, WWarstu. So, Supergirl, they had a screen test recently, was held for James Gunn trusted DC staple. What I can say is this is interesting because the whole plot for James Gunn's Superman movie leaked 1 year. There is limited no information out there. Okay, there's a little bit of information out there about this movie, but there isn't as much information about this movie as there was about the Superman, which is very interesting. Probably because they shot in the UK. So Supergirl will be coming out 2026 June. So according to the Hollywood Reporter, Supergirl held a quiet screen testing for the Supergirl movie on the Burbank lot with a select group of executives and a few members of James Gunn trusted staple. The trades didn't really reveal major information, but a couple of reliable scoopers claim to have heard great things about the movie, and we wouldn't be surprised if some first reactions begin to filter out in the next couple of weeks. In a recent interview with the writer about what attracted to the role, she said it was a rougher, grittier, and edgier, funnier take on the character. Now, this is the main criticism Peter has at Superman. He was too happy-go-lucky, but his cousin, Kara, seems to be a freaking savage. Millie Alcock reprised her role as Kara Zor-El after making a debut on Superman. So what was actually said about her? So it's mixed. It was a mixed review. Some said good, some said bad. Although there wasn't actually many criticism, it was very kind of hearsay. And always on the Twitter sphere, it is always hearsay about test screen reactions. You have one camp of the Scooper game that will say it's good. You'll have another camp of the Scooper game that will say it's bad. But as I've said in the prologue, not much information is actually leaked about this movie, which is actually fascinating because usually we get lots of information about the movie. So the Supergirl movie is about to go through 2 weeks of reshoots. According to Daniela RPK, she said it's been reported that they are likely adding some scenes. That is what always happens during reshoots. Now, this does line up with the fact that maybe Superman himself will be in it. This could explain why the Superman costume was on display at the Warner Bros. Studios tour Exhibition was removed and replaced with a note, one of James Gunn's note. Superman costume currently being used by production. Now, the only other thing that's in production is Clayface, and I can't see Superman appearing in that. There was speculation it might have something to do with Man of Tomorrow, but James Gunn's next DCU movie is still only in very early stages of development. Now, we know Supergirl will appear in Man of Tomorrow. It's basically Superman 2, and this article goes on to say they held a test screening. There realistically wasn't much information. That came out. So if you remember when they were shooting, we did see a major tank scene with Jason Momoa, Lobo. There, we did see that. Now we know this movie does come out next summer, which is interesting because it's going up against Spider-Man. So this take on Kara's area is said to be the least earnest, more edgier version of the iconic superhero, as Guns looks to move away from previous depictions of Supergirl, particularly of a long-in-run CBS CW fronted by Minister Boris, which I think the version was very good. Now, it's worth saying that some people have compared Supergirl to the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, I get why they're saying it, because she's like a superhero cosmic. She's going to be like not in Earth, so it does make sense. And Guardians of the Galaxy movies were pretty fun, to be honest. And the version we got during Superman, she seemed pretty savage, really savage. So according to a brief plot leak, if you like, Kara travels across the galaxy to celebrate her 21st birthday with Crypto, the Superdog. Now, that was really clever marketing, put in Supergirl's dog, because everyone loves Crypto. I just hope they don't massively market Supergirl on Crypto. Along the way, she meets a young woman named Ruth and winds up on a murderous quest for revenge. Dark and gritty and more edgy. I still think it will be PG-13 in the UK. I don't actually think this will be an R-rated movie. Gunn at the time said, in our series, we would see the difference between Superman, who went to Earth, raised by loving parents from the time he was an infant, versus Supergirl, who was raised on a rock off a ship of Krypton and watched everyone around her die and be killed in terrible ways for the first 14 years of her life, and then came to Earth when she was a young girl. She is much more hardcore, and she's not exactly the Supergirl we're used to seeing, which is absolutely insane. Now, I know some people may spin, I may spin it in the title, major reboots! Supergirl is an absolute mess because they're doing reshoots. No, that's not the case. 2 weeks reshoot, that's pretty small. They are adding Superman because why else would the Superman suit be taken out of the display set tour that they are doing currently? Well, they always do the tour at the Warner Bros. Tour plot lot in Burbank, where you can see all the various suits, costumes, set pieces at the actual Warner Bros. Plot lot. So I don't think there's anything wrong against that. I think it's going to be quite a cool movie. Like I say, there realistically isn't much information out there about Supergirl, and I put my hat off to the DCU and James Gunn because they are keeping a lot of stuff under wraps. Now, in a recent article, Supergirl details reveal huge changes to various costumes, which is interesting. So, according to the internet, the character of Ruth, the young noble, honored, bound warrior who traveled across the cosmos with Supergirl to hunt down a villain of the Yellow Hills for killing her father in cold blood, will look a little different to a comic book counterpart. She's dressed in a green coat with fur-lined hood, black pants, and brown boots. Inside her reveals she has a sword. The sword has nothing new, but this is a departure from the comic book look. It's said that Jason Momoa's Lobo is very comic book character, whilst the other villain a more monstrous look than the comics. As a reminder, the comic book Rem is a humoid character and a pirate assassin hailing from a distant world that orbits the red star. This isn't the first time we've heard about him having more of a monstrous appearance, and we're not too shocked to learn DC Studios has set out to make him slightly more formidable threat for the Girl of Steel, seeing as Supergirl is actually more powerful than Superman. So it's just going to be a more hardcore version of every other version of Supergirl. Sounds pretty damn cool. The reshoots aren't going to be major, but I think because they are adding some sequences into the reshoots, that something is going to set up the Man of Tomorrow Superman 2 movie that we will start shooting next. I mean DC will start shooting next year. It's pretty fascinating to me how all this stuff moves pretty quick, but they will start promoting this movie maybe at the Super Bowl. There is potentially a trailer attached to Avatar 3 in December. I don't know if that's true. it would be interesting. I mean, this movie doesn't predominantly have to make as much money as the Superman movie did because it won't cost as much. And also, they shot in the UK, so they're going to get up to 30% of the production value back. So that's something. So just based on that, it doesn't actually have to technically make as much money as Superman did, which is fascinating. With UnBoxPHD, we have already gone over this. There was some tank fight with Supergirl and also with Lobo, although it didn't really reveal much. It sounds and looks like an epic fight scene, and it probably will be. We had Supergirl flying across the screen at Lobo, and it looked pretty badass, but there wasn't really much you could decipher from said fight. Although Supergirl could definitely be made out because you could see a cape. The suit looks absolutely incredible. Y'all think I'm a DC hater, which absolutely makes no sense to me. I literally created this YouTube channel talking about Supergirl. We even spoke about Sasha Cali Supergirl. We even actually reviewed the Supergirl show with Melissa Benoist on the CW at one point. We've done a lot on this channel. So, yeah, I will be covering Supergirl going forward. So, let me know down below. All the leaks for this movie sound interesting, but realistically, we don't know too much about Supergirl. Hopefully, a big plot leak will drop soon, but there's nothing yet. So, like always, guys, I will catch you in another video very soon, guys. Catch you later.